So last week we talked about nervous systems. Today we still in the nervous system. We say we use 2 weeks for nervous system. So nervous systems, including the CNS and the PNS. CNS including the brain and the spinal cord. PNS including 12 pairs of the cranial nerves and 31 pairs of the spinal nerves. Both in CNS and PNS, they have sensory and motor. And for the brain, including 4 parts, certainly they functionally connecting each other. Yes, 3 parts, 3 big parts. Some books separate with thalamus and hypothalamus to separately, but we put it together for easily remember. So we separate, we follow our book, separate with 3 parts. But brainstem is truly separate another 4 parts. So that's generally of our brain. And the sensory, we're talking about what means sensory. So sensory is the nervous bunch transmit the message or information from the body part we have receptor there and to the CNS. Certainly they will through the spinal cord and then go to the brain. Generally speaking, receive information. And what means motoring? Motoring means transmission the information from the CNS to the muscles or maybe to the brain. Do some reaction in there. So that's the motoring, or generally say some kind of movement. So that's still coming from the brain and passing the spinal cord, then go to the muscle and the brain. That's the sensory and the motory. Then we're talking about the general function of our nervous system. So we say we have sensory part, feel the information coming from internally, like internal environment changing. We say internal environment balance is homeostasis. They feel it changing and keeping it homeostasis. And also can feel sensory can coming from externally feeling. Like we say, temperature changing, or some people needle you and you feel painful in there. So that's sensory function, including internally and externally. Then they send the information to the CNS to the brain. So basically, it's the brain's function here. Yeah, it's the brain's function here. They receive information, they analyze it, and then they try to remember. Like the children, or the case, like we have a lighter and a burning here. They didn't see that before. It's interesting, and then use hand to touching the fire here, and then burning, yeah, burning, and they will remember. Next time, he will not use hand to touch it anymore. Yeah, so that's the memory, yeah, memory function, and then make some decisions, and then they decided how to do next time, or what's the normal behavior. So if something like when we're talking about, if some people touching something hurting himself, then they will get information or reaction for it. So that's basically from the brain, from CNS, sending to the motor part, cause some muscles movement. So that the people immediately remove their hand from the sensory feeling and immediately pretty faster remove their hand. And also we say sensory also can feel something changing from internally. So that kind of reactions maybe go to motor growth part, or maybe go to smooth muscles part, organs part, generally. And the generation or producing like some hormone stuff, or maybe some admin. So that's basically function of the normal nervous system. Single word: maintenance homeostasis and control all the body's physical activities and control all our body's organs functions. So that's the generally say nervous system functions. We say PNI's part, including 12 pair of the cranial nerves and 31 pair of the spinal nerves. They still including both sensory and motory. And especially for motory of the PNI, because that control the movement of the muscle. We know muscle, including the skeletal muscle, that are touching bone and bone and performed our body movement or limbs movement. All that's possible, including some smooth muscles or cardiac muscles that control organs movement and also control the growth. So by their different location and different functions, we separate motor part of the PNS with two big parts first. Control the skeletal muscles. This part is a little bit simple. Okay, let it be simple. So we name it somatic nervous system. But control the organs Yeah, smooth muscles and grass. That's a little bit complicated. Yeah. So that part is automatically controlled there. So that's we call it automatic nervous system because they can automatically control. So automatically control here is more complicated. Sometimes they make something working like faster, stronger. Sometimes they making it a little bit slow, so a little bit weaker. So that's why they have two systems helping each other. Generally, say still keep the balance for internal organs. So one we name it sympathetic nervous, another we name it parasympathetic nervous, kind of a sister in it. So that's our PNS part. So that's basically pretty similar here. And talking about it is basically functions. Then we talking about the cells in the nervous system. So basically in the nervous system, we have two different kind of cells. One kind of cell we call nerves or nervous cells. Another cell we call glia or neuroglia. So basically, neuroglia is not specially working with nervous systems, even it belongs to nervous cells. They just performing some maintenance and repair or maybe nutrition kind of function. So nervous system cells mainly is the nervous cell. So any kind of reaction kind of cell, like we talked about before. We have sensory, we have motor. So that's basically some microelectrical travel inside of nervous cells and also passing from one side of nervous cells to another nervous cell. So this kind of microelectrical travel inside of cells, that's basically we call it nervous impulse. So that's just means electrical travel. Then we talking about we have three parts for nerves or nervous cells. One part pretty similar like generally all the over body cells bodies. Cells body part including the nucleus, including the cytoplasm, and certainly we still have cover, and including some tiny kind of organelle. Then another two parts a little bit special here. One part usually around the body part of the nervous cell, kind of a branch in there, like a tree. We name it dendrite. Another part is a long tail in there. We call it axon. So basically, axon is the way one nervous cell sending their information or nerve impulse to another nervous cell. Still have some terminal function here, and then connected with another nervous cell here. So that's basically structure of the nervous cell. Just like this. Yeah, just like this. That's the body part of nervous cells. That's nucleus. And that belong to the dendrite. Yeah, we have a lot of here. And usually one nervous cell, they only have one axon. So that's pretty long. Yeah. Yeah. Even they broken here means they're pretty long and looking inside. Pretty long away and then go to terminal and then touching another one or two or even more nervous cells. Then we talk about the axon. We talk about axon. We have two different kinds of axon. One axon have more cover. So basically it's protein, more protein in there, more nucleus in there. Multiple line kind of nucleus in there. And the cover axon. Make it look like a bigger. So this kind of axon, we call it myelinated axon. Myelinated axon. So that's four more cells in there. So basically it's insulated part and part can be separated electrical transmission there. So that's we say these kind of axon, basically they transmissions nervous impulse pretty fast. Like we say when we touching something hot, we immediately remove our fingers. So the transmission way like this kind of jumping. This kind of jumping. So that's myelinated axon. Then we have another kind of axon, just without that big cover there. So this axon is more thinner. It's unmyelinated, but it is still working. Just compare myelinated. Little bit slow, but still fast. I must say. But just compare here. Little bit slow, compare with myelinated axon, but still fast. If you compare with endocrine systems, nervous systems always faster than endocrine system. So that's still the same picture here. And certainly for our seeing eyes, especially our brain, they will have more functions, like people can thinking, have emotions, memory we talked about before already, and certainly control all of the body. Then we talking about in different part of brain, special area, they may control special kind of functions. So different part of brain, they control functions, little bit different. Like we say, that's mainly for reading area, and also for languages area. So we must be say our brain is more complicated. Something we still not that clear yet. We just know some special area relationship with our bodies, some special functions, but still not totally clear yet. And the hearing area in the temple pretty close to our ear, and the speech area and smelling air. So some basic air in here. Mainly we talking about last week, this air. So this air, anterior part, that's the frontal, that's the back. And we separate two lobes here, frontal lobe and parietal lobe. So anterior part means in the frontal lobe, this area, mainly is motor control. Mainly control of our limbs. And the posterior part here is sensory. Sensory means receive information, like some touching, some pressure in there. That's on the sensory part. Sensory part. So that's mainly our brain control or functions. And then we cut for looking inside. For looking inside. That's the frontal plane here. Frontal plane. Like we cutting from here, that's the frontal, that's the back. Yeah, this opposite to other picture. Don't confusing. That's the frontal part, and we follow the frontal bone. We cutting here, put on this side. That's the motor control. Motor control. And then we cutting behind it, and then putting this side. That's the sensory control. So that's recently, I say recently, it's not that recently, compared with 3,000 and 5,000 years. So recently, like less than 100 years. It's not this few days. So everything we will learn TCM, we know we need to compare. So like a recent 100 years, yeah, some people follow the anatomy location of the brain and then development for scapular acupuncture. So scapular acupuncture truly we have many lines. We can treat many different kind of situations, but basically follow anatomy the location. So that's if we try to treat motor functions line, that's we try to treat basically in this area. And that's we try to treat sensory function of the line here. So basically go to this line. But this line still belong to control motor function. So that's basically matching with the anatomy location of the brain. Then we talking about nerve impulse transmission way. So that look like our right side of the brain control the movement, of our left side because they cross in the medulla part and go to other side. That's the melee bunch. Small bunch, they go down through the medulla part, but in the same level, they control the body functions. They still pass into other parts. So that's basically some people got like a V stroke. maybe bleeding inside of brain, maybe blood stasis happens inside the brain. But whatever they cause part of our brain. Sorry, scared me. Yeah, so that's caused part of brain not working, but they losing functions in opposite side. Yeah, in opposite side, like their arm or leg not moving, but their face kind of movement on the same side. So that's why here. So that's basically the nerve branch passing the root here. And certainly our brain have some other functions, yeah, like sleep and wake, that control on the hypothalamus, and the learning and the memory. That's the connected part, yeah, both sides of our big brain and the cerebral part, yeah, more posterior part. So that's we talking about the different function we find control in different locations. So this gave you some basic idea. We are not truly try to remember all of these. Hypothalamus. Hypothalamus, basically, doctor have two different ideas. Most doctors say that still belong to nervous system. But some doctor or scientists, they say they should belong to endocrine system. But whatever it belongs to, it's a very important part. We have a lot of control center located in that part. So means they receive information and then they make a decision. Receive information means sensory. So sensory receive information, people can see, people can smelling and tasting, like a lot of functionally relationship with orifice functions. And also temperature changing, they can receive. And also a lot of things in the blood circulation, they can receive, like blood sugars changing, blood pressure changing, fat levels changing, so even hormones changing. So they receive a lot of information. And they also have control functions. So we say lot of control center in there. So that's basically from hypothalamus. And then they send the information go to brainstem, including brainstem together, and control all body functions like heart and blood vessels and some other functions, relationship with all digestions. So that's basically, or even urinations through the spinal cord. So lot of functions control in that area. So basically here, pretty similar like before, we talking about the passing way, yeah, passing way from the brain to the spinal cord. This go mainly, big branch go to opposite side on the medulla oblongata, and the small branch go to the same level then they still go to opposite side. Then we're talking about the nervous cells and the nervous cells, they connected each other, form the circulate. That means one nervous cell's information can sending to other nervous cells, and then the information possible sending back and form a circle there. So we have lot of different forms. The nervous cells connection with other nervous cells. One form is one nervous cell touching more than one other nervous cell. So still that's the body part, that's the axon part. Then here's the dendrites of these nervous cells body. So they touching here. Yeah, we're talking about some space here pretty soon. Synapse. Yeah. There's space between the nervous cell and the nervous cell. And then these two nervous cells, each of them touching another nervous cell. Just give one example here. Truly, they can touching more than two. Just give one example here, but whatever from less amount of the nervous cells go to one direction, touching more and more nervous cells. That kind of way we call it division. And the opposite way, opposite way is multiple kind of nervous cells. They touching one nervous cell. So that's we call convergence. So generally say, division kind of connections usually is output. What means output? Usually control the movement. And like convergence, many nervous cells can touching one nervous cell. Usually is go transmit, go to CNS. That's usually we talk about. But still, different part of body, different functions in there, even more complicated. So that's two single way. And certainly we have more complicated way. The more complicated way, like one cell can touching with other cell and then another cell, and then the bunch coming back to control. Originally, the cell send the nerve impulse or information before. And then they back again, and then they back again. And also some way, like this way, they control, and different ways. So basically, nervous system is a much complicated system. They have lot of cells and cells connecting with, and then transmit information each other, and then they control each other, keep the internal environment balanced. Pretty similar like we talking about negative feedback system. So that's basically last bit, which is talking about in there. Now we go to some new part here. Cranial nerves. Cranial nerves is belong to PNI. We say nervous system separate with two parts first. CNS, central nervous system, and the PNS, peripheral nervous system. So that's separate two parts first. And the CNS, including the brain and the spinal cord. PNS still separate with two parts. We say one part we call cranial nerves. Cranial nerves means they directly connected with the brain, mainly coming from brainstem part, and go to mainly to the head part. Totally we have 12 pairs there. 12 cranial nerves. And control different functions. So now let's see what they're doing. So here is the picture. We say we totally have 12 pairs. 12 pairs means one coming from left side. Left side nerves only control left side. And the right side nerves, cranial nerves, only control right side. And we have number here. The order and the number that we also use. So in your anatomy, you should remember the number matching with the name. But here we're mainly talking about functions. But from the functions, you may easily remember the name. So let's talk about one by one here. Number one. Number one nerve branch go to the nose. Go to the nose. The function is smelling function control. So that's mainly is sensory nerve branch. So that's its name. This means smelling. Number two, they go to the eyes. That's usually we talk about optic nerve. People can see something. Like we talk about vision. That's controlled by the number two nerve, cranial nerve. Then we can put number three, number four, and number six together. These three together control the eyeball movement and also the eyelids muscles movement. We know around our eyeballs we have 6 muscles there and control eye movement go to different directions, basically 3 pairs in each eye. So that eyeball movement control is by these 3. Number 3, number 4, number 6. The number 5. What's the number 5? Their function. Number 5 functions. Number 5, they separated with 3 branches. So that's why the name coming from. So we're talking about 3 means 3. Yeah. So it mainly controls face sensory function, but they still have some motor function, but mainly is sensory function. That's number 5. Like some people talking about, they have TMG and then they feel part of face in painful situation. Relationship with number 5. And then we say number 7. Number 7 mainly is the motor function, means the movement can make a patient laughing or cry or even eating. Mainly is movement function. Still have bunch have some sensory. So that's number 7. And then we're talking about number 8. Number 8 basically go to inner ear. Receive the hearing, the sounds, vibrations, and then transmission to the inner ear, and then through the number 8 cranial nerves go to our brain. And also control the balance. Thus both belong to ear function. Number 9. Number 9. Look like we start from the top go down, the function go down. Thus basically they go to the tongue, control the tongue and control the third eye. So including both motor and sensory part. Like you can taste something, that's controlled by the number 9. Number 10, number 10 look like others, just controlling the hide area. But pay attention to number 10, vagus. Thus belong to parasympathetic nervous system. We know both sympathetic nerves and parasympathetic nerves thus mainly control the organs, smooth muscle. Basically, they will go to like a chest area or even abdominal area, control all organs. So you can see the picture here. So picture here, basically they tell you the nerve bunch coming from which part of the breathing. You are not necessary to remember where they coming out, but truly you need to remember what's their functions. That's number 1, go to the nose. That's number 2, go to the eye for vision. And then you see number 3, number 4, number 6 together for the eyeball movement. They control the muscles there. And number 5, we say number 5, they separate with 3 bunch. So that's why they have 3 different kind of color here. 3 bunch. That's mainly control the face sensory. Mainly control the face sensory. And then number 7, mainly control the face motor. Mainly control the face motor. And then number 8, go to inner ear. So that means inner ear. hearing function, balance function. And then number 9, we say go to the third eye, go to the tongue. The difference, all the bunch go to the face, head. The difference is number 10. So you see that means like the heart and the lung in here. That means our digestion in here. So they control most part of our internal organs. So that's number 10. Then we're talking about number 11. 11 coming back. 11 coming back. Control our head, neck, shoulders movement. So mainly is motoring. Mainly is motoring. This picture. And number 12. Number 12. Still control in the head area. People's speech. Eating something, swallowing, mouth, and soft eye. So that's our totally 12 cranial nerves and their functions.